My friend showed me my wife's dating profile, and I built a digital trap that exposed her infidelity, corruption, and a hidden crime to the world. The whiskey burned Derek Langston's throat as he watched his best friend navigate the glowing screen with practiced swipes. Tuesday night at Ali's had become their ritual, a brief escape from the sterile corridors of CyberShield Solutions, where they both worked. This is how the other half lives, Brent Logan chuckled, his divorce papers still fresh in his drawer at home. 3 matches today alone. Garrick nodded politely, uncomfortable with the parade of faces sliding across the screen. At 35, he felt decades removed from this digital mating dance. He and Valerie had met the old-fashioned way, a corporate mixer, eye contact across a crowded room, actual conversation. 7 years of marriage had built something solid, something real. "Let me show you how this works," Brent said, sliding the phone toward Derek. "You'd be surprised how addictive it gets." "I'm good," Derek protested. But curiosity won out. He took the phone, mimicking Brent's movements. Left swipe, right swipe. The casual dismissal and selection of human beings reduced to thumbnail images. "See, it's like human shopping," Brent laughed. Derek's thumb froze mid-swipe. The world tilted. There she was, Valerie, his wife, smiling in a crimson dress he'd never seen before. Her dark hair cascaded over bare shoulders. Her smile held secrets he apparently wasn't privy to. Val. The word felt foreign on his tongue. Brent leaned over. "No way." His face drained of color. "That can't be. But it was." The profile was unmistakable. Valerie, 33, single, just here for good conversations and new experiences. The location showed 5 miles away, their neighborhood. "There's gotta be some mistake," Brent stammered. "Someone using her photos, maybe?" Derek barely heard him, his eyes fixed on the screen, scanning her bio. "In a relationship, but it's complicated. I don't believe in monogamy. Let's keep it thrilling." 7 years. 7 years of building a life together crumbled into digital pixels before him. "I need to go," Derek muttered, dropping a 20 on the table. Derek, wait." But Derek was already moving, his body on autopilot while his mind fractured into jagged pieces. The cool October air hit his face as he stepped outside, but he barely felt it. The drive home was a blur. Their condo, a modern high-rise overlooking the Chicago suburbs, had always represented their success. Tonight, it felt like a monument to deception. He parked in the underground garage and sat motionless, his breathing shallow. When his phone chimed with a text from Valerie, the sound sliced through him. "Working late, don't wait up. Love you." Derek stared at those 3 words. Love you. He'd never questioned them before. He took the elevator up, entered their pristine home, and moved to their shared office. His fingers hovered over the keyboard of his personal laptop, the one Valerie never touched due to his boring work stuff. With mechanical precision, he opened an incognito browser and downloaded the app. Years of cybersecurity expertise kicked in. He created a new email, a prepaid card number, and persona, Troy Mitchell, 38, financial consultant, recent Chicago transplant. He uploaded photos of a college friend who'd moved overseas years ago. Then he began to swipe. It took him 40 minutes to find her. His heart hammered against his ribcage as he matched with his own wife. 3 dots appeared. She was typing already. Handsome, new to Chicago? Derek's fingers trembled above the keyboard. He took a deep breath and stepped into his new persona. New enough to still be discovering its secrets. Any recommendations? Her response came quickly. Depends what kind of secrets you're into. The tame ones or the exciting ones. Each word was a knife. Derek felt his entire body go cold, then hot with rage. He forced himself to respond. I've never been one for tame. 3 dots again. Then neither have I. My husband doesn't understand that about me. Husband. The word landed like a blow. He was right here, becoming someone else to learn who his wife truly was. For 2 hours he chatted with Valerie as Troy. She told him she was married, on paper only, that her husband was reliable but predictable, that she craved intensity he couldn't provide. What's your situation? She asked. Single, recently out of something long-term. Not looking to settle. Perfect. Neither am I. Already settled on paper, looking for everything. But when she sent a photo of herself in lingerie he'd never seen, something shattered inside him. The timestamp was today, while he was at work. The background was their bedroom. By midnight, Troy had arranged to meet her for drinks the following evening at the Lakeside Hotel bar, a place she apparently knew well. Derek shut down the laptop and moved silently through their bedroom, where Valerie now slept, her face peaceful. He grabbed a pillow and blanket, making his way to the guest room, where he stared at the ceiling until dawn, plotting not just an exit, but annihilation. Abraham morning arrived with cruel normality. Valerie kissed him goodbye, her lips brushing his cheek as she grabbed her travel mug of coffee. "Dinner with Madison tonight, remember?" she said, referencing her college friend. "Don't wait up." Derek nodded, the lie hanging between them like a toxic cloud only he could see. "Have fun," he managed. The door closed. Derek immediately moved to his workstation and initiated a digital invasion. As CyberShield's top security analyst, he knew exactly how vulnerable the average person's digital footprint was, especially when they shared Wi-Fi, cloud accounts, and device passwords. Within an hour he had mirrored her phone, messages, photos, location data, all flowing to his secure server. What he found destroyed any lingering doubt. A hidden photo album labeled personal contained dozens of images meant for men who weren't him. Hotel confirmation emails, messages to men, plural, stretching back 18 months, and one name that made his blood freeze, Lawrence Thornton, his boss. Lawrence, he has no idea. Valerie, none. Derek lives in his own world. All logic, no intuition. Lawrence, same meeting tomorrow. I'll make sure he's occupied with the Chen project. Valerie, perfect. The usual suite. Bring the champagne, I'll bring the entertainment. Eric's fingernails dug into his palms as he scrolled further. Another name appeared repeatedly. Tyler Griggs. A quick search revealed he was a detective with the Chicago PD, married with 3 children. Their messages were more concerning. Tyler, the witness statement disappeared. You're in the clear. Valerie, you're a miracle worker. Tyler, just don't forget our arrangement. My neck is on the line. Valerie, tonight at 8. I never forget who takes care of me. Cross-referencing dates, Derek discovered something chilling. Last year's minor accident Valerie had with a pedestrian, allegedly a small bump where the person walked away, appeared to be something far more serious, covered up by Detective Griggs. By afternoon, Derek had assembled a digital archive, but it wasn't enough. He needed irrefutable proof, testimony that couldn't be denied or explained away. He needed Troy to become her confidant. When evening arrived, Derek positioned himself at the Lakeside Hotel bar 30 minutes early. He selected a table with a perfect view of the entrance, but partially obscured by a decorative column. 3 tiny cameras from his company's security testing kit were strategically placed, one on a potted plant near his table, one angled from the bar itself, and one in the corridor leading to the restrooms. At precisely 7:02 p.m., Troy sent a message, running about 10 minutes late, grab us a spot at the bar. Valerie's response came quickly. Already here, red dress, corner spot. She was early, eager. Derek watched as she checked her reflection in her phone camera, applied fresh lipstick, and took a sip of what appeared to be a martini. She wore the same red dress from her profile photo, her wedding ring conspicuously absent. At 7:15, Troy messaged, emergency client call. Might be another 20. Stay put. I've got nowhere else to be tonight, she responded. Take your time, Derek observed as she ordered another drink, scrolled through her phone and occasionally glanced toward the entrance. The hunger in her eyes when the door opened made him physically ill. At 7:45, he delivered the final blow, not going to make it. Client disaster, rain check, she responded immediately. Tomorrow? Same time, same place. Perfect, Troy replied. But tell me something. What would you do if your husband walked in right now? Her response came after a brief pause. Honestly, part of me fantasizes about it. The look on his face, knowing I'm completely beyond his control. There's power in that. Derek's hand tightened around his phone. He watched as she finished her drink, gathered her purse, and walked out, passing within 15 feet of where he sat, never noticing him in the shadowed corner. Once she left, he collected his cameras and headed to his car. There, he accessed his laptop and transferred the footage. He had her on video waiting for a lover, admitting her desire to humiliate him. It wasn't enough. Not yet. Over the next week, Derek lived a double life. By day, he was the attentive husband, hiding his knowledge behind practiced smiles. By night, he was a digital ghost, following Valerie's electronic trail and building his case. As Troy, he gained her trust through nightly messaging sessions where she revealed increasingly intimate details about her other affairs. "My husband thinks I'm visiting my sister this weekend," she told Troy one night. "I could see you instead." "Tell me more about your husband," Troy prompted. "Why stay with him at all?" "He works financial security," she answered bluntly. "He makes excellent money, and divorce would mean losing half our assets. Plus, he's so absorbed in his work, he never questions me." Perfect cover. Abra's confession was meticulously archived. At the office, Derek maintained a facade of normalcy while secretly documenting every interaction with Lawrence Thornton. He volunteered for the Chen Project, the very one Lawrence had used as cover for his meetings with Valerie, and scheduled status updates that forced his boss to be present and accounted for. Lawrence noticed. "You're unusually enthusiastic lately, Derek." "Abra just focused on results," Derek replied, holding eye contact a moment too long. One morning, Derek followed Valerie to a breakfast meeting he wasn't supposed to know about. She met with Victor Castillo, the primary investor in her real estate firm's newest development. Through a directional microphone borrowed from work, Derek recorded their conversation from his car. "The zoning board decision is still confidential," Valerie told Castillo, leaning close. "But the vote is already secured. You can start buying up the adjacent properties now before prices skyrocket." "A brokey and your commission?" Castillo asked. "The usual arrangement plus something extra for the priority tip," she replied, sliding her foot along his under the table. "Insider information, confidential investor tips." Each recording added another brick to the wall Derek was building around her future. The most damning evidence came from Detective Griggs. Using techniques that skirted the edges of legality, Derek accessed police records relating to an accident from the previous year. A pedestrian, Martin Reynolds, aged 68, had been struck in a crosswalk. The official report listed the driver as unknown despite 3 witnesses initially reporting a woman in a white Audi, Valerie's car. Further digging revealed hospital records showing Reynolds had suffered a broken hip and traumatic brain injury. He died 3 weeks later from complications. Derek tracked down the original witness statements before they'd been altered. All 3 descriptions matched Valerie and her vehicle. The pieces fit perfectly with the timeline of messages between her and Griggs. She hadn't just cheated, she'd left a man to die and corrupted an officer to cover it up. The Castillo Development Gala represented the pinnacle of Valerie's professional success. As PR manager for Blackridge Properties, she had orchestrated every detail of the evening, from the champagne selection to the strategic seating chart, placing key investors near city officials. Derek attended as the supportive husband, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Throughout the cocktail hour, he watched Valerie work the room, her practiced laugh carrying across marble floors. She introduced him mechanically when necessary, her hand never lingering on his arm. "Your wife is quite the asset," Castillo told Derek, his eyes following Valerie as she moved to another group. "She understands discretion." "You have no idea," Derek replied with a tight smile. "Bruy." At precisely 8:30 p.m., Valerie took the stage. The crowd quieted as she approached the podium, radiant in a gold evening gown. "Tonight represents not just a building project, but a vision for Chicago's future," she began, her voice confident. "Blackridge Properties has always prided itself on integrity, transparency, and community partnership." As she continued, Derek slipped away to a service corridor where the audio-visual equipment was housed. The young technician barely glanced at his employee badge from CyberShield, a company that conveniently handled security for many of Chicago's premium venues, including this one. "System check," Derek explained, sliding into the chair. The technician nodded and stepped away. Derek inserted a flash drive. Years of security work had taught him that most systems had identical backdoor administrator passwords, a vulnerability he'd reported countless times. On stage, Valerie was reaching her crescendo. "And now, I am thrilled to reveal the Lakefront Tower renderings, a project that will redefine luxury living in our city." The massive screen behind her shifted, not to architectural renderings, but to a Tinder profile. Her profile. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Valerie turned, confusion crossing her features as she saw her own face projected 20 feet tall behind her. Derek advanced the slides. Remotely private messages between Valerie and Troy appeared, her words displayed for hundreds of Chicago's elite. "My husband is boring. I need intensity he can't provide. I've been with other men. Then came footage from the hotel bar, Valerie waiting in the red dress, sipping her martini. Audio played through the venue's premium sound system. Part of me fantasizes about it, the look on his face knowing I'm completely beyond his control. Key Brewer. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Phones emerged, capturing the unfolding disaster. The next slide showed messages between Valerie and Lawrence Thornton, exposing their affair and their mockery of Derek. Then came the most damaging revelation. Her exchange with Castillo about confidential zoning information, followed by police reports of the hit-and-run and the messages between her and Detective Griggs. Chaos erupted. Valerie stood frozen at the podium, her mouth open but soundless. Castillo was already moving toward the exit, pursued by a city councilman demanding answers. Lawrence Thornton had vanished entirely. Derek emerged from the service corridor to find Valerie rushing toward him, her face contorted with rage and panic. "What have you done?" she hissed, grabbing his arm with surprising strength. The crowd parted around them, camera phones recording every moment. "Introduced you to Troy," he replied calmly, removing her hand from his arm. Her eyes widened with realization. "You." "Me," he confirmed. "Every message, every confession, every betrayal, documented." She switched tactics instantly, tears welling in her eyes. "Derek, please. I can explain everything. They're manipulated, fake. Someone's trying to destroy us." "We, not us," he corrected. "Just you." A commotion at the entrance drew their attention. Detective Griggs pushed through the crowd, his face thunderous. When he spotted Derek, he charged forward. "You're making a serious mistake," Griggs growled, flashing his badge to create space around them. "Step outside, now." Derek didn't move. "Are you here as law enforcement detective or to protect your mistress?" The crowd's whispers intensified. Someone nearby muttered, "That's the cop from the video?" Griggs leaned in, his voice a threatening whisper. "You have no what you've done. I can make your life a living nightmare." "Too late," Derek replied. "My wife already did that. But unlike Martin Reynolds, I survived to tell about it." The detective blanched at the victim's name. "Security footage from 3 angles," Derek continued quietly. "Witness statements, hospital records, the digital trail between you and Valerie, all backed up and held by my attorney, with instructions to release everything to internal affairs if anything happens to me." Their standoff was interrupted by Valerie's boss, Margaret Winters, the steel-haired CEO of Blackridge Properties. "Both of you out," she commanded Valerie and Griggs. "Security will escort you from the premises. Valerie, consider yourself suspended pending investigation." She turned to the stunned crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, please accept our deepest apologies for this disruption. The evening will continue in the South Ballroom." As security approached, Valerie made one last desperate attempt. "Derek," she pleaded loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "think about our future, about the baby." The room went still. Derek hadn't anticipated this move. "What baby?" he asked flatly. "I was waiting for the right moment," she said, hand moving to her stomach. "I'm pregnant, 8 weeks. It's yours, Derek. Don't do this to your child." For a fraction of a second, doubt flickered across his face. Then he remembered the wine she'd consumed at the hotel bar just last week. "The cocktails tonight. 8 weeks," he repeated, calculating. "That would be around the time you met with Troy at the Lakeside Hotel, the night you drank 3 martinis while waiting for him." Her expression faltered. "You're not pregnant, Valerie. You never were." The final lie exposed. She crumbled, security officers taking her arms as she was led away. Detective Griggs followed separately in humiliated silence. Derek stood alone in the center of the whispering crowd, the culmination of his plan unfolding exactly as he had designed. The legal battle began 3 days later when Valerie filed for divorce, claiming psychological manipulation and illegal surveillance. Her attorneys painted Derek as an obsessive husband who had violated her privacy and staged an elaborate revenge plot. Derek's lawyer, Sophia Chen, was unmoved. "My client has exercised his legal right to document his spouse's infidelity and criminal actions," she stated in the preliminary hearing. Miss Langston's accusations of manipulation are not only unfounded, but appear to be a deliberate attempt to distract from her own documented misconduct. The courtroom became a battleground as Valerie's team fought to have Derek's evidence declared inadmissible. They argued expectation of privacy, illegal surveillance, and entrapment. Judge Eleanor Haywood listened impassively before issuing her ruling. While some methods used by Mr. Langston push ethical boundaries, the evidence of Miss Langston's actions, particularly those involving Detective Griggs and the Reynolds case, constitute matters of public interest that override privacy concerns. Sigh Bree. Outside the courtroom, press gathered daily. The scandal had exploded beyond a simple divorce case. Internal Affairs had opened an investigation into Detective Griggs. The Securities and Exchange Commission was examining Blackridge Properties for insider trading. Lawrence Thornton had been placed on administrative leave at Cyber Shield. Through it all, Derek maintained a calculated composure, following Sophia's strict instructions to limit public statements and avoid appearing vindictive. Valerie took the opposite approach. She gave tearful interviews claiming victimhood, insisted the evidence was manipulated, and painted Derek as a tech-based controller who had used his skills to fabricate a false narrative. Her strategy backfired when Derek's team produced financial records showing she had used their joint accounts to fund hotel rooms, expensive gifts, and weekend getaways, all while Derek was working or allegedly visiting her sister. Yes, Your Honor, Sophia argued, presenting bank statements. Miss Langston spent over $46,000 of marital assets on expenses directly related to her extramarital affairs. This constitutes financial fraud against her spouse. The case took an unexpected turn when Valerie's legal team introduced a life insurance policy change dated just weeks before the gala exposure. The paperwork, allegedly signed by Derek, increased his coverage from $500,000 to $2 million. This proves Mr. Langston planned to leverage this policy, her attorney argued. He manufactured this scandal to position himself as a sympathetic victim before filing an insurance claim that would have required his wife's elimination. Hebrew Sophia called Derek to the stand. Did you authorize this policy change? She asked. Aberthy, no, Derek replied firmly. That's not my signature. Handwriting experts confirmed Derek's claim. The forgery was professional but detectable. Further investigation revealed the paperwork had been processed through Blackridge Properties' legal department, where Valerie had access and allies. Your Honor, Sophia addressed the court. We have evidence that Miss Langston, not my client, initiated this policy change using a forged signature. This suggests she was contemplating harm to Mr. Langston while simultaneously engaging in multiple affairs and covering up a vehicular manslaughter. The courtroom fell silent as Sophia continued. We've also discovered Miss Langston attempted to access my client's retirement accounts using his personal information and fabricated emails to his employer, claiming erratic behavior. All after the gala incident. Judge Haywood's expression darkened. Miss Langston, these are extremely serious allegations. The final day of proceedings brought the most dramatic confrontation. Valerie took the stand, attempting one last desperate strategy. I need to clarify something, she began, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. I didn't cheat on Derek with multiple men. Just one, a real person. I was in love. It wasn't betrayal, it was a new relationship. I am pregnant. Not with Derek's child, but with Troy's. Aberg. A murmur swept through the courtroom. Troy Mitchell doesn't exist, Derek's lawyer countered. He was a fictional profile created by my client. That's what Derek wants everyone to believe, Valerie insisted. But I met Troy several times. Derek discovered our relationship and is now claiming he created the profile to cover his dishonor. Judge Haywood turned to Derek. Mr. Langston, do you have a response to this claim? Derek nodded and opened his laptop. Your Honor, every conversation between Troy and Valerie occurred through text messages on the dating app. There were no phone calls because I altered my voice recognition settings. There were no video chats because I claimed privacy concerns. He projected the complete message history onto the courtroom screen, highlighting timestamps and geolocks. Each message from Troy was sent from my location at the time. Many were sent while I was at work, with multiple witnesses able to confirm my whereabouts. Keberhri, he turned to Valerie. If you met the real Troy, please provide any evidence. A security camera image, a receipt, anything showing the two of you together. Valerie's expression hardened as she realized her final gambit had failed. Judge Haywood had heard enough. Her ruling was comprehensive and devastating for Valerie. Full divorce granted on grounds of adultery and marital misconduct. All liquid assets to be divided according to contribution rates, with adjustments for Valerie's fraudulent spending. The condo to be sold, with Derek receiving 70% of proceeds due to his higher contribution to the mortgage. A restraining order against Valerie, prohibiting contact with Derek. Referral of the Reynolds case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. As Valerie left the courtroom, reporters swarmed her with questions about Detective Griggs, the hit and run, and the insider trading allegations. Her PR career was effectively over, her reputation destroyed. Blackridge Properties had already terminated her employment. The Chicago social circles she'd cultivated now shunned her. Derek watched from a distance as she pushed through the media gauntlet. There was no satisfaction in her downfall, only a hollow vindication and the painful knowledge that the woman he'd loved had never truly existed. Outside, Brent waited by Derek's car. "You good?" he asked as Derek approached. Derek paused, looking at the Chicago skyline stretching before them, the afternoon sun glinting off glass towers where thousands of lives continued, untouched by the destruction he'd just navigated. "She taught me betrayal," Derek replied, his voice steady. "I taught her consequences." Brent nodded, knowing better than to offer platitudes. They stood in silence for a moment before Derek unlocked his car. "Where to now?" Brent asked. Derek considered the question. 7 years of life had been built around a foundation of lies. His marriage, his career path, his social connections, all contaminated by Valerie's deception. "Somewhere new," he finally answered. "Somewhere without ghosts." As they drove away from the courthouse, Derek's phone chimed with a notification. It was an email from Valerie, sent to his personal account. "This isn't over. You've destroyed everything I built. I'll spend the rest of my life making you regret today." Derek showed the message to Brent, who whistled low. "She doesn't give up, does she?" "No," Derek agreed, pulling over to forward the email to his attorney. "But neither do I." He composed a brief response. "Every threat extends the restraining order. Every action has consequences. This is over, Valerie." He hit send, then blocked her address permanently. 6 months later, as Derek prepared to leave Chicago for a security consulting position in Seattle, he received a package from Sophia Chen's office. Inside was a newspaper clipping reporting Detective Griggs's sentencing for evidence tampering and obstruction of justice in the Reynolds case. Valerie had been named as a co-conspirator with her own trial pending. A note from Sophia read simply, "Justice delayed is not justice denied." Derek placed the clipping in a folder with a final divorce decree, then packed it away in a box labeled Past. Tomorrow belonged to a different story, one he would write himself. One message, one day, one truth at a time.